Everybody, Jesse at Better CNC here. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about what taps I use, and I kind of realized there's a lot of guys out there that probably don't know a whole lot about the different taps, depending on what type of world you worked in. So I want to make a quick little video kind of talking about the different styles and what my preferences are. So I've got pretty much the gambit right here. So we have what's called a straight flute tap, and this means as it cuts, the chips literally just fill up the flute. The chips don't move down, the chips don't move up, they just kind of stay where they are. This is generally about the cheapest tap you can get. It's kind of your all-purpose. If you go to Home Depot, this is odds are this is what you'll end up with. I may have gotten this from Home Depot myself or the local bolt company. Next level up, we have what's called a spiral point tap. So you can see here it's got a cut, a different grind right at the tip. So with this type of tap, as it taps the hole, it pushes the chips out of the hole. Usually you want to use this if you're doing a through hole, and cut taps can generally be used on pretty much any material. But only through holes only with this tap. Don't want to do it on blind holes because you're going to be packing the chips in the bottom of the hole, ramping up the odds that you're going to break the tap. Next one we'll look at, this is called a spiral flute tap, spiral flute tap. So it's still a cut tap, it's still cutting the threads into the hole, but it actually pulls the threads. The threads go back up out of the hole. You can actually use this in blind holes. And I've gone pretty deep with these, but usually if I'm going deep, I'll tap it twice. I'll basically go half my depth and then full depth, just because I've had it to where the chips will pack in, and if you're going too deep, and then there's no more room for it to really push. The chips don't move out as well as the drill does. But you can still use this on pretty much any material. So this is called a form tap. This tap you can only use on specific materials. You can use it on most aluminums that are not cast, like Mike 6. You can also use it on a lot of stainless steels. You can use it on copper. Don't use it on plastics. And I think you can use it on steel. Don't quote me on that. But this tap works by actually forming the hole. There is no chip generated. There is no actual cutting. It literally just molds the material into place. I'm not sure which one leads to better strength. I think form taps do, because it makes the material a little bit more dense because of the forming process, but let's say I'm not an engineer, I'm not a scientist behind this. It's been a while since I put in thought into that kind of thing. And the last way of getting threads I'm going to touch on is a thread mill. So I'm starting to try and switch to these a little bit more, depending on the type of machine you have and how fast it can run. You can tap pretty fast with this, and it also can be very versatile. You can do multiple size threads with it, as long as the pitch is the same. But typically, let's say this is kind of the other end of the spectrum. This is about as expensive as you get. I believe this tool here, I pay I want to say $180, $200 for this tool by itself, but I can use it in a pretty broad range of situations. When it comes to your standard taps, which are generally the fastest and the most commonly used, I still recommend spending a little bit more. So these two taps right here are probably $10 to $20. This tap, which is the OSG Electrolube, I think they've discontinued this series, but it was probably $30 at the time. And this tap is the OSG XPF Pro or something like that. This is my new all-time favorite. If I can use a form tap, this is the tap I'm using. It usually runs $50, $60 for the tap, but I can run this 2,000 to 3,000 RPM depending on the material. And my machine taps up to 6, so I get full speed out of this thing, and only time I've lost them is when I've messed up. I've yet to lose one from wear and tear. Not that I won't at some point, but they last. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about taps. just to give everybody an idea of what's out there and what you're looking for. So straight flute is your run-of-the-mill. You can do it by hand. You'll buy it. Buy it at your local hardware store. It's about as cheap as it gets. Spiral point. You only want to use it on through holes. You can still use it on most materials out there. Spiral flute pulls the chip out of the hole. You can use it on pretty much any material. Just be a little cautious about your depth because the chips can pack up pretty quickly. A form tap or roll tap. There is no chip generated. You could typically do these in one punch, in and out. But I recommend getting a nice one, spending a little bit extra money, and make sure you can only use it on material that accepts a roll tap. And then thread mills, if you want to get real fancy, or you're doing larger threads or custom threads, things like that. They're a little bit more expensive, but they're very versatile. They don't scrap your part if they break, because you can actually get it out because it mills it. So, hope everybody's having a good weekend. Catch you in the next one.
The lunatics are in my hall. The paper hole